Hey friends, live again on YouTube and hopefully on TikTok, but I'm not sure if that is working. But I know it's definitely working on YouTube, so that's good. And we're back after the holidays. I hope you all had a good one. And if you catch this live, please like the video and follow along. Um, we are going to be looking at the Gnostic Gospels again. So I've been doing a little mini series on this main channel, trying to simplify the Gnostic Gospels because, as you can see, they are quite complicated and very difficult to decode, some of them. So I have been trying my best to work through the more difficult ones. So if you've been a subscriber for a long time, you know that I have spoken about the more accessible Gnostic Gospels, like the Secret Book of John, the Reality of the Rulers, and stuff like that, because they are based on Genesis and stories that we're all really familiar with. But then there are also some other Gnostic Gospels that were, uh, which are Gospels that are basically left out of the Bible. I'm not going to go into it, but alternative spiritual scriptures that were sort of labeled as too controversial for the Bible, and some of them are really difficult to decode, and that's done on purpose to sort of stop this knowledge from circulating to the masses. So I have chosen the Gospel of Philip. I'm not sure why my TikTok isn't connecting, guys. Mm-mm. Oh well. Anyway, I've chosen the Gospel of Philip, which is a really difficult one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read it straight from the book in its original form. Then I have taken some notes where I have, and I've got it to this side of the screen where I've simplified what they have to say, and I've written the deeper meaning, and I'm going to try and expand on that. And I'm going to leave all of these notes down in the comments as well. Yes, thank you. Hello, happy New Year. I'm glad you caught the live. So it's only usually a few people in here, and then people usually come along later on because I'm quite I need to get better at it, but I'm bad at keeping a schedule and going live consistently. So I try to go live once a week, but it's always at a random time, unfortunately. So I'm glad that you guys happen to be here. And if you've got any questions or anything you want me to talk about, as always, just let me know and I'll come back and forth in the chat, and I'll have a quick talk with you guys. Or if it's something quite deep, I will do a longer video about it at another time. Anyway, so I'm always rambling in these live streams, so let's get on with it. So the first passage that I'm going to read from the Gospel of Philip is titled Converts. And in the original text, it says, "A Hebrew makes a Hebrew, and such a person is called a convert. A convert does not make a convert. Some people are as they are and make others like them, while others simply are." So the Gospel of Philip is basically written in riddles. So extremely difficult to understand the deeper meaning of it. So I have taken some notes on the side, and I'm going to read straight from them. And it says it's a passage on life and spiritual death. And put in simpler terms, it translates roughly to: a non-believer does not experience death because they were never truly alive, but one who believes in the truth is alive, and this life makes them vulnerable to death. And below that, I've put in Gnostic thought, true life isn't physical but spiritual. So a person who lives in ignorance, so a non-believer or a non-Hebrew, as they have said in this text, is just a person who lives in ignorance and is only focused on the physical, and spiritually those people are dead anyway, so their eventual physical death is insignificant. And that sort of goes into the idea of background people or NPCs, or whatever you want to call it. They're sort of just uh, extras in this projection that we call life. And we shouldn't pay too much attention to such individuals. And it says, however, those who awaken to true spiritual truth and true gnosis experience real spiritual life. And this awakening makes them aware of the fragility of the material world and exposes them to spiritual death if they fall back into ignorance. And the paradox here is that to be truly alive, we have to face the risk of losing that spiritual clarity and getting caught up in in everyday life without paying attention to higher truths. And that's one of the constant struggles of enlightenment. Not to suggest that I'm enlightened or anything like that, but on this spiritual journey, is something that is very difficult to maintain because we're constantly being distracted by outside forces, is what it is basically trying to say. Second, the next passage is about light and darkness. And a follower of a supporter of mine a couple of weeks ago said that they wanted a video on light and darkness, and I will definitely be doing that soon. And in the gospel, it says, light and darkness, life and death, and right and left are siblings of one another and inseparable. For this reason, the good are not good, the bad are not bad, life is not life, and death is not death. Each will dissolve into its original nature, but what is superior to the world cannot be dissolved, for it is eternal. And I really like that one, and I really love that explanation of duality. And in my notes, I have said light and darkness, life and death, good and evil. These are all siblings and they are inseparable from one another. The good are not purely good and the bad are not purely bad. And the best representation I believe that we have of that is the Eastern symbol of the yin and yang, where you have the black and white sort of teardrops, and then in the black there's a dot of white, and in the white there is a dot of good. And that basically is trying to express that there is not that much separation between what we deem good and bad or right and wrong, and they're all sort of reflections of each other, and that's just the nature of duality. And Gnosticism is one such example of that. So what we now call Gnosticism is the reflection or the dark side of traditional Christianity. And it is that because it challenges the simplistic ideas of good and evil and that black and white thinking that we usually have. So in my notes, I've put Gnosticism challenges the simplistic binary of good and evil. And this passage suggests that the dualities we experience are interconnected and cannot exist without each other. And that's really hard for us to grasp as humans. But ultimately, even the good contains elements of bad and vice versa. And that is just a reflection of the imperfection of the material world, where everything is a blend of light and the shadow. And the reference to the dissolution, or the dissolving, I guess, into original nature points to the belief that everything physical eventually disappears, but higher spiritual energy is eternal, and is something that exists beyond what we can see, and it's more neutral, and that's why it's a lot more peaceful, and we find it hard to visualize such reality. And I believe that the point of that passage is that true enlightenment comes from recognizing and understanding both the light and the dark, and moving beyond duality and the illusion of separateness, because it keeps us in this spinning wheel of karma. But I've got a couple of videos on duality that I've already done, and I'll try and link them below, hopefully, if I remember at the end of this video. And I'll be doing some more on that, because it's a whole subject within itself. But hopefully I've explained it good enough for you guys to understand. Next is the forces. So a subject that I speak about a lot, especially over on Patreon and whatnot. And it says in the Gospel of Philip, there are forces that do favors for people. They do not want people to come to salvation, but they want their own existence to continue. For if people come to salvation, sacrifice will stop, and animals will not be offered up to the forces. In fact, to whose sacrifices were made were animals. The animals were offered up alive, and after being offered, they died. But a human being was offered up to God dead, and the human being came alive. And the last bit is a reference to the crucifixion of Christ there. So a more simplified explanation of that passage is where are we? The forces are powers in the world that offer favors to people, but they do so to ensure their own survival, not to bring people closer to salvation. Because if people reach salvation, sacrifices will cease. And that ties in to the idea of the archons that I speak about so much. And the Gnostics and myself believe that they are these sort of low-level gods that are almost harvesting humanity's energy and using it for negative things. One example of the negative things that these low-level gods use our energy for is this ritual of sacrifice. So if you read a lot of ancient texts about ancient religions, they would sort of offer up young humans to certain gods or certain forces in order to appease them. And now, at that time, obviously, it eventually became socially unacceptable to do that, quite rightly. And over time that those practices stopped, and they were just seen as sort of these ancient rituals. But there is also the belief or the idea that these things still happen, but they happen behind closed doors. So at the moment we have these alleged celebrities in the news that are doing horrible things to young people. and whatnot. And sometimes it just happens in everyday life. So it's not always in celebrity land. People do, the unspeakable things to the young and the innocent. And it's this symbolic or almost subconscious offering or sacrifice to these gods who are harvesting energy off of the most powerful. And the most powerful in this reality are the young, or what people consider to be, quite young and innocent. And I'm sure you guys understand where I'm going with that. And it's an offering up to these forces. And again, that is another video in itself. I might have to put that one behind a paywall, because there are a lot of things that that trigger people on YouTube. And as you can see, I'm trying to watch what I'm saying, but it's something that I will try and speak about more. And I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I will definitely put this in my notes as something to speak about a little bit more. But in my personal notes, it says the forces described here are likely the archons, and the archons are spiritual rulers or entities in Gnostic cosmology that govern the material world and feed off of human emotions, especially our more negative emotions. And these powers, these rulers, sustain their existence by keeping people en masse bound to ignorance, desires, illusions, and ritual sacrifice. And in that passage that I just read, the idea is that salvation or saving the self ends. No, I'm getting tongue-tied. What have I said? The notion that salvation ends sacrifice reflects the idea that spiritual awakening often liberates people. So once you are awakened spiritually, we are not at the mercy of these archons. So that's why they have all of they put in all of this effort to keep us ignorant and scared and attacking each other, and doing all of these negative things. But again, more of that is over on my Patreon page. So I'm trying to go through these quite quickly, because I end up doing live streams for hours and hours, and I don't want to be on here forever, as much as I love talking to you guys. The next passage that I've chosen is about Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary, and her conceiving of the Christ. And this passage is a really interesting one, and it says, some said Mary became pregnant by the Holy Spirit. They are wrong and do not know what they are saying, because when could a woman ever get pregnant by another woman? And it says Mary is the virgin whom none of the powers defiled, so none of those archons could get to. And this is greatly repugnant, to the Hebrews, who are the apostles of the apostolic persons. The virgin whom none of the powers defiled wishes that the powers would defile themselves. And in my notes over here, a simplified version of that is some claim that Mary became pregnant by the Holy Spirit, obviously, and this passage is saying that they are mistaken, and they're using the example of when could a woman ever get impregnated by another woman. It's highlighting that we need opposite energies to create life. And in my notes, it says this passage challenges the literal interpretation of the virgin birth. The statement questions the masculine imagery of God by highlighting the idea that a Holy Spirit that is seen as feminine could create a life inside of the Virgin Mary. And it suggests that the Virgin Mary's uh, condition is symbolic, and it represents purity and integrity, and being untouched by the powers or these lower energies that are present in the world. And the virgin archetype in Gnosticism or in mystical beliefs, um, at least, is just a representation of something that cannot be corrupted by these earthly forces, and that's why Christ came into the world so perfect, and not because she was a physical virgin. So that makes that made a lot more sense to me. And this is all just my interpretation, by the way. I'm not saying that this is the truth. So if you've got any other interpretations of what any of these passages mean, please let me know, because I'm just doing the best I can down here, because this is definitely one of the more difficult gospels and longer gospels that I have read, and I'm only gonna go through about 2 or 3 more with you guys, because I don't want to sort of sometimes I feel like I overwhelm you guys in the with these long lives. I want to try and keep them a little bit more simple or shorter. So passage number 5 is going to be about taking something from every house. So the passage says, take from every house. The master said to the disciples, take something from every house and bring it to the Father's house, but do not steal what while in the Father's house, and take something away. So that is another passage that is layered in metaphors, and what I believe it means is it reflects the idea of uh, gathering wisdom or knowledge from various different traditions, and different spiritual beliefs and different experiences that you have and that people have, and bringing it to the Father's house. So in the spiritual community, there is this idea that this is basically a simulation or an advanced sort of holographic computer game reality, and the human body is like a vessel that is collecting information, and that is giving it that information back to a higher source. However, the warning in there is not to steal from the Father's house or from the heavens or from the spiritual world. And it suggests that once enlightenment is attained, it should not be used for selfishness or um manipulation or material gain or stuff like that. And the idea is that these entities, these archons, they have reached a certain level of knowledge, and to an extent they're enlightened as well to a certain degree, but they misuse that enlightenment and they use it for their own physical gain, and that's what keeps them at a low level, and they almost sort of create another I don't want to say matrix, but they create a cage for themselves, if a person chooses to do that. So it's just reminding us to keep our moral compass in the right age, when in the right age, in the right direction when sharing these ideas, or when we're learning and stuff like that. So that's that one. The next is the precious in the worthless. This one doesn't really need too much explanation, but I thought it was just a nice one to share. And it says, no one would hide something valuable and precious in a valuable container, but countless sums are commonly kept in a container not worth a cent. So it is the soul. It is something precious, and it has become to be in a worthless body. And I think that's just a really important reminder to us all. And it's, it's a really good comparison. If you have got a large sum of money, let's say £100,000, you're not gonna put it in a beautiful, precious box with a massive sign saying £100,000 on the top. You're gonna, lock it away in a bank or a safe or somewhere secure, and in somewhere that is not gonna draw too much attention to itself to stop robbers from coming into your house or wherever you've got your money and taking it. And the human body is a bit like that. We've got something really precious inside of ourselves, but the body, it isn't always nice. We get sick, it grows old, we die, unless we, as women especially, put loads of makeup on and groom ourselves and keep up with ourselves every single day. It doesn't always look good. But that's all just superficial stuff. And the important part of us, the soul, is deep within us, and we should we need to look after it. So I just really liked that metaphor. And the last passage that I thought I would end on is to know yourself. And it says, all those who have everything should know themselves, shouldn't they? If some do not know themselves, they will not enjoy what they have, but those who know themselves will enjoy their possession. And that's just a quick passage about gratitude. And in my notes it says this is a direct call to self-knowledge and to self-reflection. And in Gnosticism and in other spiritual beliefs, it says that knowing ourselves and being comfortable with ourselves is the key to salvation. And if a person doesn't know who they really are, then they're going to overlook what they possess. They're going to overlook the specific gifts that they have. So maybe they're supposed to be a healer, or maybe they're supposed to be some sort of in some sort of leadership position, or doing something to help the cause of humanity. But because they're too caught up in the world, they haven't taken the time to get to know themselves properly. But once that is achieved, and you start to understand what your potential purpose is, or once you begin to learn new things and gain wisdom, peace, and physical fulfillment and spiritual fulfillment usually comes quite quickly after that. So I'm going to end it there. I feel like that's quite good. We're on a half an hour, so that is not too bad. Good to catch a live. Keep up the good work. No worries. It's always good to be on a live. I'm a little bit out of practice, as you guys can probably see, but I hope that you took something useful from it. I will post any video recommendations that I spoke about below, and I will put all of my notes that I've taken below, because I know that some of you guys find that useful, especially when you're watching it back. Thanks for all of the support over the holidays, and for interacting with my videos, and all of the new people that have come along. And yeah, I'm gonna leave it there, and I'll be back with another video really soon. I'm going to be way more consistent in the new year. I know everybody says that, but I definitely mean it this time, and I'm gonna try to not be so sporadic, especially as I have been over the holiday season. But yeah, happy New Year's! Another great live here with you guys. Please like it, especially if you're still watching all the way at the end, and I will see you guys soon.